Hello, everybody. Welcome to SJGames painting stream. Sorry I wasn't able to make it last week. I got a cold that I'm still kind of getting over. Um, might notice the visor on my head. We could talk about that, or we can just move straight to talking about the cycles, and I can get on this in a minute. We've got them over there. You can just see them off to the side. Okay, so I didn't want to reveal everything yet. Uh, Most of the models, the 4 that we're going to have, are very nearly finalized. But I brought these 2 today so that we'll still have 2 more to show off in the future, plus the riders. I also thought about bringing in the ones I painted because we do have I did just finish up the studio paint jobs earlier, but again, I thought let's leave a little bit more cool stuff for down the road. So we're not going to show everything all just in one stream. These will have names just like the cars and Car Wars, but they are not finalized yet. So I can't tell you what they are, but yeah, those are two of our war cycles. We got machine guns, rockets, everything cool, and that's what I'm gonna be painting today.
And we do want to stress that these are prototype pieces. It's Jimmy, I'm over off camera here,
Yep.
but we are back from PAX Unplugged. Yeah, these are prototype pieces, so they're not 100% final. Things could change before we get to the end, and anything we say about the actual gameplay is also still in the prototype and playtesting phase. We are to the playtesting phase of cycles, so we're making progress there.
I'm probably not gonna be saying anything about the gameplay cycles because I don't really know what. I have not been involved in that. So,
Do they have interchangeable riders? Asks chat.
they do not. I think.
Do they have any
sus-
riders?
They do have riders, and I suspect that they will be that they will come fully assembled, just like the cars for Car Wars did. If you have seen, if you guys were back the Carnage 2 Kickstarter or even just looked at it, the riders are wearing very similar gear to those crew members that are out of the vehicles that came as STLs in that project. So they got helmets, they got some cool kind of body armor. They've got a little sidearm. They very much look the part.
Will these
And
be STLs?
I can't say anything about that.
Okay.
I would
We're working on getting
suspect,
the
These are
first product
intended to
done.
be a plastic mini that you can buy in stores, right?
yeah, this is
This is what's going to be. These are potentially what are going to be in the Car Wars Cycles release.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
it'll look very close to these, if not the same. Although these are actually even more prototype. These are like one step before the current iteration that I painted for the box art for the final game.
Okay.
So there was only one thing I could really notice, which is just there's like some vents on the side of the more angular shaped one that were added. I don't really know if the more like traditional looking bike had any really major changes, but I didn't notice any on that one.
Can you put one of the cars next to them so people can see the size comparison?
Yeah. Oop. And I can also
Ooh.
kick the table accidentally and shake everything up, possibly knock it over.
So,
So I don't know. Let's maybe put it on the same plane. So they're definitely. Oh wait, that's off camera. That's not helping.
do you have one with the base?
No, I forgot to bring the bases.
I mean, we have one with the base.
Oh yeah. And I'm sure the bases will be something else that will come up. But they do have bases. The bases are slightly different, just because the nature, like obviously there's two holes that go into each car. They don't really fit on that. They have like, I don't know if you can see this. They have like one big hole on the bottom, kind of keyhole shaped,
Oh, I see. Yeah.
so that they just fit in that way. But the bases are, now that I'm looking at it, I think the cycle bases might be a little bit smaller, but their line of sight rules, at least for now, assuming that does not change, are a little different. So the sight arcs are different as well.
Yeah, they're going to have different bases than the car bases.
Yeah.
I'll tease a little bit about what I've seen in playtest, with the caveat again that this is playtest and it may have changed since I last saw it even. But right now, Cycles is intended to be its own expansion, but it is going to be compatible with cars from Car Wars. So you can play just Cycles against each other, or you can play Cycles versus cars. And some of the ideas early on, and I think up to the last playtest I saw, were that if a car has 4 sides and 2 crew members, then a cycle has 2 sides and 1 crew member. And so if you were going to have equality with a car, you would have a pair of cycles. You'd have 2 crew members and 4 sides, the equivalent to what 1 car would be. That is, again, very early playtest thoughts. And I don't know how much of that's continued through because I haven't seen one in a while. But just to whet your appetite of some of the thinking that's gone into where we're designing them.
Well, soon we're going to be playtesting with prototype models,
Nice.
which will make it even cooler.
Different arcs.
Right,
Yes.
yeah, when I say faces, that different fire, there's 4 fire arcs on a car. The last time I saw cycles, there were 2 fire arcs on a cycle.
Yeah.
But there was discussions on some other things too, so.
But it's still under development.
Yeah, it's still very much in development. Is it gonna be a standalone expansion or does it need the core game too? Cycles, I believe, is going to be a standalone. That standalone but compatible is the intent.
Okay. Are we gonna start painting Ben?
Sure.
Let's start painting. While Ben starts to set up painting, I will
We
remind.
won't paint Ben. Ben will start painting.
Right, Ben's gonna start painting. Start painting, comma, Ben.
Yes.
And let me just mention this visor
Yeah.
first. So I think at least a couple of times I've talked about how I'm getting older. My vision hasn't been as good as it was, and so recently I've been getting to the point where I was having to hold the models about this far away to get a really good focus on them. So it was just getting harder and harder to pick out the details. So I finally picked up a visor again. I used one years ago, and I don't know if it was the quality of the visor or if it was just that my eyes were so much better, but I would have to put it on and then I would end up needing to paint this close to be able to focus on the thing. But with this one, even this is like the higher magnification setting, I can do it about here and it has made a world of difference. I can see detail on models like I could, 15 years ago. And I really didn't realize until I started wearing this thing, how much of my close-up vision I lost. So anyway, I got these things are only like $15. So if you are interested, if you think that might be something that might help you out, painting wise, I say just go for it because I don't paint without this thing. The only thing I warn you of is that it did give me a headache for the first week or two that I was using it, but I've gotten used to it now. My brain is I don't even notice them.
You're rewired.
Yep. Rewired.
And it looks like it's got a built-in light too.
It does, yeah, and that's gonna help here.
I'm
Because
afraid no,
it's
we
a
don't have
little
any Amazon links.
Darker.
We'll leave it up to
Yeah, I
your,
can just
your
search,
Google
probably
skill
just search
set.
for jeweler's visor or something like that. All right, so another thing I've been doing a lot lately is I'll start out with contrast paints, or in this case with Army Painter speed paints. I've poured one of them in this bottle because I like to be able to just dip my brush in, and this is Army Painter Purple Swarm. So I'm going to go for a purple look on this guy. So I'm just going to start with the contrast, or sorry, the speed paint, because it goes in there and it just gets into every little nook and cranny, and it's just a really easy way to start off. And obviously the point of these, they're called speed paints because they can get good results fast, and of course they're still good for that. But even for me, I found that they really help guide me a lot in what I'm doing and just show me where a lot of the highlights and shading are going to need to be. So I've really grown fond of them as well lately. I think I actually like the speed paints better than the contrast. The only thing I don't like is that they come in dropper bottles, which does not make sense to me because this is the thing you want in a pot, obviously, right? You don't want to drop it. It's just easier when you can just dip your brush in. You never, because at least for me on a wet palette, as soon as I drop it on, it absorbs most of the liquid out, and you get this weird sort of pasty
Yeah,
stuff that's not as good.
you can't use any of those contrasting paints with
Yeah. Another tip, if you're using these, whether you're going to try for like higher quality results or just for a fast paint job, is try to never go over the same area twice. You want to get a really nice even coat the very first time, and then you want to try to stand it up so that everything kind of settles equally. I haven't been able to get quite as good results just on the first pass as you see with what they show in their galleries and online and stuff, but it's still pretty good, pretty useful. And the trick for stuff like this is you're supposed to go one section at a time. So this cycle has bigger sections, so it's a little trickier, but like if you were doing like a space marine, let's say, just because that's the thing everybody's gonna be the most familiar with, you would want to do like left foot, right foot, and then once those had a chance to dry, like right lower leg, left lower leg, and just move on and do it section by section by section.
For like hard surface stuff.
Yeah. And then obviously, I guess, if you're gonna do a cloak or something, you gotta do the whole thing all at once.
Right.
But I found the bigger the area that you're trying to do, the less success I have getting like a nice even, getting the result that you're really sort of supposed to, which is the
Right. Because you'll like
that
run out
insta
halfway
blend.
through.
Now, they're not thin enough that you have to worry about starting from the top and going down in case it drips. They're not that thin.
No, they're not the consistency of washes. They're like a very thin paint. So yeah, if you put it on, um, it's not gonna just dribble all over. It pretty much stays where you put it. All right, now, so the other thing I like about this, I'll actually go in while they're still wet and start adding a little blending that way. Anybody's never watched one of these streams before, I like to paint my fingers. It's just, or my thumb really. It's just how I do it. And so if you can see, like as I'm going over it, like I'm sort of smoothing out the surface and getting it more even. But for the most part, the stuff will stay in the cracks.
Now you're painting back over it again. Does it?
While it's still wet, yeah.
Some of the early stuff it just kept reactivating. Do you have that problem?
No, it with both kinds it stays solid. Like it's once it's dry, it's water. It's not water soluble anymore.
Cool. All right.
Just like normal acrylics. I think I need a lighter color. I think that color I was just using is a little too close to the base, so I'm not really getting any good highlights coming through. The other thing I like to do with these is I will thin normal paints with the contrast, and what you get then, it just sort of it's smoother, so it's kind of watered down, but it's not runny. And when you like, let's say that you like thin a yellow paint with a yellow contrast paint, you get something that's much more saturated. So I find that it just really makes your colors more vibrant. So I decided on purple for this. I don't really know why. Probably because none of the ones I painted for the box set, none of the official paint jobs are purple, so this one's going to be a little different. As long as you go, a little carefully, you can actually, a lot of times you can go over those little recesses and leave the line intact from the contrast paint. Although it's not always 100%. And man, let me tell you, these guys have some incredibly fine detail. I spent a lot of time fixing mistakes on the real batch I was painting, quote unquote, because it's just all so tiny. Oh, and then so I need to get a little bit more blend. So rather than using, I got a light normal paint and a dark contrast paint. I'm just gonna use that to blend in here. And I don't know, I just really have been loving the way it works. Or again, sorry, this is a speed paint. I'll be using both. Because I've tended to like the speed paints a little bit better, I'm probably gonna start trying more and more of those as my contrast paints run out. But the contrast paints are fine too. It also doesn't hurt that the speed paints are a little more inexpensive.
Well, Ben, speaking of that, I will tell everybody we do have a few more days left on our holiday sale. I'll put a link to it here on Warehouse 23, but we've got several packages and things on sale, up to 23% off. We've got some bundles there for various gift bundles.
There's my rag.
But that only goes through the 16th, which is next Monday, which I believe is also our shipping cutoff deadline from Warehouse 23 for getting things there by Christmas. So if you want to get something from Warehouse 23 to somebody by Christmas, you need to order it by Monday because we're going to have a few days after that for the warehouse to finish processing orders. And then we'll be out for the holidays after the end of next week. So make sure you get any of those orders in, and sale lasts through that last day. So take a look at it, hop on through, see if there's anything you wanted to grab somebody. Maybe they need to get a starter Car Wars set to get them started on stuff, get ready
Get that orange
for
purple.
cycles coming out next year. They get orange purple,
Or get
or get one of the earlier Kickstarter 2-player sets, yellow, red, or blue, green. Or if someone does have all the Kickstarter stuff, grab them Gonzo gear or Sonic Strike.
and other minis and stuff, Ogre Mini Set 3 is available now, isn't it?
I think so. I can check that. What bundles do we have here? We've got a GURPS hardcover bundle. We've got a Cat Lovers bundle. We Love Cats,
Not a
Kitten
cat
D6 dice set, the Super Q Bug Slot pin, Kitten Polyhedral set, a Kitten dice bag, an Illuminati bundle with both of the new second edition Illuminati things and a puzzle, a Deadly Doodles bundle. What else do we have here? A Munchkin Warhammer Age of Sigmar expansion bundle. You get all the expansions.
That's cool. Including the Portals one, or the one we were doing the other day, or is that
It
not
looks
out
like
yet?
it is. No, it's Chaos and Order, Death and Destruction, and Guts and Glory. So not the Dungeons one.
Dire Domain.
Right. All right, let's start on the other side. So hopefully you guys can see how it's kind of dry, the contrast for the Army Painter speed paint, and settled in the recesses. So this is what I'm talking about when I say it kind of helps give a little bit of a, helps tell me where the highlights and the shading is going to go. Just kind of works as a guide.
It's Ogre Miniatures Set 4 that's new.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, so that's finally all the units for Combine. So different tanks, different stuff.
Yeah, you get
The
a
Fencer and
Mark
Lancer.
1, a Mark 2. You get 2 Mark 1s, 2 Mark 2s. Some Combine Ranger heavy tanks, some Combine Banshee missile tanks. Their Raptor GEVs, the Roadrunner GEV PCs, the Gremlin LGEVs, howitzers, the mobile howitzers, light tanks, super heavy tanks, infantry, and some double soldier treads to replace the set 3 treads.
Which I'm pretty sure people got if they.
But that's basically Mark 1 and Mark 2 and all your Combine variant of the units.
And they're pretty neat models. I have a lot of fun painting those.
I like the ogres. They're the super heavy too. They're all this kind of like more round than a usual ogre is.
Yeah.
Round or teardrop shaped things. A little sleeker, a little boxier. Look, there's painted versions.
I always wonder, somebody out there probably did this, but I always thought it'd be cool to have like special rules for the Ogres Mark 1 and 2 because they're like old. So they're not as advanced as the newer ones, but they've like fought in hundreds of battles. So like it'd be cool to have them be like wiser somehow, you know, because they're AI tanks. So
They're battle hardened.
yeah. All right, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and start doing some lining on the all the panels here. So that means switching to a smaller brush. This is lately the Winsor Newton brushes, the writing on them just gets wiped off within a couple of days of using it. But this is a Winsor Newton Series 7 miniature, size 1. I'd accidentally been buying the not miniatures, but just the standard Winsor Newton Series 7, and those are really more for watercolor. So make sure I really like these, but the standard ones don't come to as fine of a point. So if you are interested in buying the Series 7, make sure that you get the miniature kind. Because when the bristles spread out, I think I was even complaining about that maybe on like a recent stream that they weren't as high quality as I was used to, and it turns out I was just using the wrong series.
It's Series 7. What size was that one?
It's a size 1 miniature. So yeah, get the miniature ones for miniature painting. That's what they're for.
Welcome in, Go Shock. Howitzer, we were talking about the Ogre Howitzers, not you. And now I'm pretty sure Ben can't even smell the paints right now, much less huff them.
They're
Ben, you don't immediately try.
Well, they're acrylic. They're not gonna.
acrylics.
They're not the fun kind.
They don't off gas or any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And I was honestly wondering if I could smell them because I've had this cold. Maybe my sense of smell is coming back.
Like you could probably eat acrylic paints. Probably.
Here at
I
SJGames, we
wouldn't
do
recommend
not
it.
endorse eating acrylic
Yeah.
paints.
I mean, there's this whole. This is the thing. Like, there's this whole offshoot of the painters who call themselves brush lickers. Like, they proudly call themselves brush lickers because.
They just use their tongue as a wet palette.
Yep. And that's what they like when you see me rubbing rubbing the brush on my hand, what I'm doing is I'm twisting it, and that's helping to get the bristles back into a fine point. What the brush lickers do is they'll just put it in their mouth and just sort of suck it out, and then that's how they get the bristles done.
Yeah.
And again, like for me, what's gross about that isn't so much the paint. It's just like, if you change your water before you paint every time, it's probably okay. But I've gone like a week without changing my paint water. You would be
Yeah.
amazed how rancid paint water can get in just like a
Yeah.
week's time. Because I mean the acrylic is, they are organic chemicals, and I think they're bacteria, just common bacteria that can metabolize that, and they will just live in your cup and like eat those organic chemicals. Because I can't
They're
imagine
delicious.
I can't imagine how the water could get so gross if there wasn't something in there that bacteria were digesting and pooping out. Because like just a normal cup of water, if you leave it sitting for a week, it doesn't get as gross as paint water will.
Right.
So something in bacteria growth. But anyway, that's why I never lick a brush, because that water gets so nasty. 99% of the acrylic paints you see, if not 100, should say non-toxic on them. Although I did hear somewhere, I don't know how true this is, that non-toxic is like meaningless, at least in the United States. Like you don't like you don't. There's like no.
It probably just means it didn't immediately kill something.
Yeah. Like it doesn't have to undergo like years of rigorous testing to get
Right.
a non-toxic label. I think you can just say
I mean,
that.
if you watch the news, all these things that they sell at gas stations these days, I don't think anyone is paying any attention to anything.
Oh, like the vaping stuff.
Like, I mean, there's so much stuff that makes the news, or they're like, I can't believe this is getting into the country. And anyway, I'm not going to go on a rant about that stuff. It's probably the paint is probably nowhere nearly as toxic as stuff you can buy over the counter in a gas station.
Goshark asks, how does the paint hold up to the enzymes in the saliva? The saliva has to affect the cure on the paint.
Yeah, I've thought about that too. And I mean, some very, very talented painters are brush lickers, so it doesn't really seem to affect their results. They're doing some very high quality work. My issue isn't that it like makes for less good paint jobs, because that doesn't seem to be the case. I find it odd.
Well, I think it's like the longevity, right? Like, is it going to break down over time because it has all those strange
Yeah, it has like,
critters in it?
well, that and just like protein strands from your saliva.
Right.
I mean, one of the other things that I've never done, but that I know really talented painters will do, is they actually use soap to it helps keep the paint from like pulling up in weird ways, just can kind of make it a little bit smoother. And you're supposed to just use like a really tiny amount, and it can
Changes the
supposedly
viscosity.
Like in your
right,
paint
right.
or in your rinse water or what?
In the paint, I think it's most commonly used for when you want to do an ink wash, but not like how I'm doing, just like do the ink wash and just leave it that way. And so that way more than the brush licking thing to me is like, how do you keep this stuff from like, doesn't it make the paint just way easier to wipe off? Because soap,
Right.
you know, like how does that bond with the acrylic? But again, I've seen totally amazing results with like soap in the paint. The other weird thing is there are surely some kind of like art grade additives that do the same thing. So I don't know why you would want to use dish soap.
Ghostwright says soap would break the surface tension of the water.
That makes sense when it's still wet, but then after it dries, I would think, if you use soap, it might have a chance to reactivate if you got it wet again.
Yeah.
Uh,
Or even if you just like held it too tight, like it might just like smear it off because it wouldn't be
yeah.
fully cured in the way that acrylic is supposed to.
Howard's Explosion Guy says he's got a Masterson's wet palette and he's heard the penny trick to keep mold away. So far, so good, but it probably wouldn't work for rinse cups.
I have had some very strange growth in my wet palette.
I tried the pennies. It never worked for me.
I had what I'm pretty sure was a slime mold take up residence in my palette multiple times
Yeah.
and like send out those weird like root like tendrils across everything.
Yeah.
Very strange.
So-
Yeah, it looked pretty
Very
cursed.
cool biology.
It looked pretty
happening.
cursed, but yeah, I almost didn't want to kill it. It's like, hey, slime old friend, what are you doing in there? But eventually I was just like, no, this can't be allowed to continue. So I just Cloroxed
It
the
must be
whole thing.
purged, friend.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm gonna take
Well,
a
I mean, 'cause
reference photo for ideas later and then purge.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, I took pictures.
Modern pennies have more zinc than copper. That's a good point. Pure silver is antibacterial too. Yeah. Are there any modern coins made with pure silver though?
If they were, they'd be really costly. Silver's gone up in value just like gold has.
Right. All the precious metals are precious. They're more precious every day. And yeah, try decontaminating your wet palette with Bitcoin.
That's toxic in a different way. All right, I think that's looking good. Let's maybe do some different colors to make things a little more interesting. So I'm gonna go with an orange visor. So let's start with sunny skin tone. It's kind of a light orange. It's kind of like a bottle tan color, honestly.
There you go. Penny's not one of the pennies I use is a 1959 penny.
There you go. Things were made different back then.
All right, so what I got here that I'm shaking up is an orange contrast paint called Hound Orange. So I'm gonna get some of that on the brush. And while that sunny skin tone is still wet, I'm gonna sort of slide it across with the side, start to blend in that darker color. I need a little bit more, it's still pretty light.
So how much time do you have to work with the speed paints
Ooh,
before they start like getting too dry to blend? Are they any different from normal paints?
Yeah, they seem to last a little bit longer.
Hmm.
Let's get some more of that. Just let me. Oh no, that's the biggest amateur mistake. Leave a wet droplet on your brush, and then it just falls on what you're painting. I hate when I do that. Still happens sometimes. Not the end of the world. It's just it can be really annoying because it caused some of that orange to bleed into the purple.
I like how we're watching paint dry and conversing on the history of U.S. currency.
Yeah.
All sorts of subjects come up during the hobby streams.
Right.
And technically, just there, we were watching paint wet because Ben stuff.
All right. So I kind of like the way that looks. When it's anything like kind of reflective, like this windshield is supposed to be, I like to start dark at the top and then have it get a little bit lighter as it goes down. Although another way to do it would be to just sort of have streaks, light streaks, sort of off and on as it goes down. Having a hard time getting a really even transition across the thing. It wants to stay concentrated at the top.
Varger Corsair says you just need a penny made in 1981 or older for the higher copper content.
Mm.
If only I still used hard currency.
And I think the only exception to that is ones during World War II. So a lot of them were not copper. They needed all the copper for shells.
Hmm.
And I know that because I don't know why I remember this. We always remember the most random things, right? And I never even checked the factuality of the statement, but there was this one kid I knew who was always looking for copper pennies from those years, and he claimed that they were worth like thousands of dollars. Because if they were copper, then they were super rare. And so I just remember it because anytime we go on a field trip, we go have lunch at some place, and he would just be like obsessed with everybody's change, trying to find those like super rare pennies. And he had a bunch from that era, but they were all, according to him, the wrong metal content, so they weren't really valuable.
Probably what he told you.
Yeah, again, like I said, I have no idea the veracity of any of this. It'd be interesting if anybody else knew.
I hope he became a financial advisor.
I have no idea. There are some people that I was friends with in middle school that I still know what they're up to, but not that guy. All right, now I gotta fix up the mistake from the orange bleeding into the purple. Honestly, I could probably do a little bit of a better job with the orange transition. And if I was spending more time on this, I would just get it really smooth and have, I guess, a higher contrast between the poles, like a much lighter on the bottom and darker on the top. But this is just a stream. Sorry, I don't mean to. Hopefully that doesn't sound
We have
too
limited
elitist.
time.
This is just a stream. Yeah, we don't have time. Although there's like no way I'm gonna finish this. But I mean, cycles are gonna be cool for a while, so I always talk about how I'll finish up this or that at the next stream, and then I never do. But maybe this could be one of those things.
We're looking at summer or Gen Con, our current estimate for cycles. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of time to work on it.
Yeah. Alright, so purple highlights on the top. Well, even though this isn't very far along, maybe it would be cool to switch to the other one, so you guys can look at that one for a while.
Get a little bit of set of eyes on the second model.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Let me get this is one place where that orange bled in here. Fix that. Get that line down there. Okay. So for this one, I went with the green. Would be a good color.
What's the
Maybe
model
a
look like?
blue. It's this one's more of like a real world like Kawasaki kind of looking guy.
Get a close on that Brandon for chat to take a look at.
Yeah. We keep moving it.
Sorry. Okay. So hard to rotate everything correctly when it's mirrored.
You guys think on a color for that one?
Do red or blue. Even do pink. Maybe let's do a blue.
I almost want to say futuristic.
Paint it up like an ultramarine.
I was gonna futuristic like a cop motorcycle.
Oh.
Like
Ooh, Judge Dredd.
Judge
Yeah.
Dredd or like Chips 2085.
I'd really want a reference for that to like it's interesting the things that are necessary to really like
Give
make
that
it look
feel.
yeah.
Chet's saying Christmas or hot rod red or crimson and gold.
Crimson and gold. It could be Christmas. We could do a red, white, and green Christmas color. All right. So for green, I've been having a lot of luck with GW warp lighting. So we start here. Here.
Now I think since we've got a bunch of Car Wars folks watching here, I think what we're gonna do for our last stream of the year next week is we're probably gonna go ahead and finish up our last planned idea for the Car Wars deep drives. It's gonna be we'll be talking about structure and
I just figured out what was wrong with this one.
the upgrades and possibly accessories as well.
So the final or the next iteration, I can tell you, has these pipes. They appear on both sides. They're not on this side. So that makes me wonder if the sculptor intended it to be asymmetrical, and they were like, no, or if this was just like a genuine, oops, I didn't mirror the pipes on the other side like I should have. These are all pretty symmetrical. I always thought it was kind of cool how the Car Wars cars had a mix of perfectly symmetrical and asymmetrical. The one of the four bikes though is that way. It has different weapons on each side.
Howitzer asks, do you dilute your paints? My brushes always seem to dry quickly, even when I load them up well. Maybe it's the desk lamp I use, so that's why I'm excited to use the goggles. I use the new AP paints.
I go back. I usually just end up sticking the brush back in the water pretty frequently, so it's not a problem I really have. A lot of times I'll just like get a little bit on the tip before I go back in. I tend to have a bigger problem just with the paints. Even though it's on a wet palette, they'll lose a lot of their moisture and get really thick and gummy. And a lot of times that means that even if you add water, they're not quite the same. They're just not quite right anymore, you know? Because there's like little tiny microscopic bits in them that have dried. Oh, I know what we can call this car. Santa's sleigh.
Oh,
Get it?
There you go.
That's a movie now, I think.
is it? Probably.
They had what
Was
was
it?
it? Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Oh,
That's
maybe
a
that's
horror
what I'm
movie.
thinking of.
There was the one that had the guy from Stranger Things, the sheriff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
David Harbour.
Yeah, it's Santa.
Seemed like Violent Night.
Violent Night. That's what it was. that was fun and silly.
I
It's
don't think
kind of
I've
like
seen that one.
you take it's like about 65-70% Die Hard,
Yeah.
and then like 30-35% Hallmark movie. And you mix them together.
Okay.
That could be really entertaining.
I remember the trailer and wanting to see it. I just
Yeah,
I've never
If you
gotten
watch the
to it.
trailer, you know if that movie's for you or not.
Yeah, yeah.
It's pretty much it is what it says on the tin.
It's violent.
It's got some good stuff. There was surprisingly a little more Hallmark than I expected, but it all worked. And your villain is John Leguizamo.
Okay.
Yeah, it was fun. It's better than watching Hallmark movies.
Right.
I was watching Smile 2 on Paramount Plus, and
Oh.
it recommended, when it was over, it recommended some Jack Black holiday movie, and it was like, if you like horror, you'll like this. And I was like, man, your algorithm is really messed up right
That's the
now.
new one with Jack Black. Where the
I
kid
guess
writes
so.
the
Like he is
Satan
like
instead
a
of Santa.
ghost or something. Oh, yeah, I mean, it seemed like it wasn't just like a family movie, it seemed like, but it did not seem like it was meant to be a real horror movie. I mean, could Jack Black even do a horror movie?
Like a kid's PG-13 horror.
Oh yeah, maybe like a goofy kind of scary stories feel.
Not like the substance horror. Because seen that yet?
I want to. It looks really creepy.
It's amazing. Probably the best movie of the year.
I'll take your word for it. Horror is not usually my thing.
It
I feel like it's more of a horror in like how The Menu is a horror, right?
I
It's
didn't
not
see the menu, but yeah, probably.
the menu's way. It's not really like a horror. There's
It's
scary
more like a
parts, but
fable or a Grimm's
Yeah.
fairy tale kind of thing.
Yeah, that's not too bad. Like
Where,
usually my horror goes like Cabin in the Woods or
that's a good
Dale
one.
and Tucker versus Evil
That's a
or
good one.
Army of Darkness. Like that's kind of like
campy
comedy
yeah.
horror is about where I stop on the horror scale, I think, usually.
You might be able to make it through the substance. It's got a lot of humor.
It's not that like I'm too scared to watch them, they just don't interest me most of the time.
Oh,
My
you
sister
will-
was
this,
the big
This will keep you interested. Let me tell you.
my sister was the big horror movie, like yes, all of them. Critters 2,
I love those. The Smile movies are very different animals. They're very spooky and creepy and will
I
Some
saw
really
the first
creep you
one.
the F out.
Yeah. So the second one is worth watching.
Definitely worth watching. I don't think it's quite on par with the first because I don't think it brings enough new stuff to the table. Although there are some things that it did. The ending is really really good, even though I was kind of expecting it.
Sure.
And it leaves it up in the air for the possibility of an absolutely insane twist for a third installment if they get to it.
Okay. Yeah, I had not seen the Smile until this year. Because usually every Halloween for October I do a month-long marathon, watch a horror movie every night kind of deal. So Smile got in there this year. And I don't think Smile 2 would come out yet.
There's nothing just to make sure You know, there's nothing funny. There's no comedy in Smile. There's
No, no, definitely
nothing about it is funny or campy or goofy. It is just like intense terror for almost the whole
not a
time,
good time.
but in that subtle, creepy way that modern horror flicks sometimes do really well.
That's okay.
Yes, Ben is painting Ben.
Yes.
Ben is his favorite wet palette. Dry palette depends on the climate controls.
It's I like I said earlier, I do it mostly as a way to twist to make sure that the bristles on the brush are twisted to a good point. But it's also a way to get a little bit of excess paint off because when I do this, I can kind of feel almost as much as see whether the brush has like the amount of paint on it that I want.
Right. Yeah, I've always done that sort of thing to check consistency. It's usually what I'm looking for. What's the flow like?
All right, let's try for our gold for the windshield. So I've got this Yandin yellow. I really love this stuff too. It might be one of the most finicky just because if it's on too thick, it doesn't really look yellow anymore. It looks kind of orange, but it in a way that if it is settled properly in the recesses looks really good. But if it's like if you put it on a little bit too globby, it's kind of easy to mess up. So it has this nice golden look to it, which I really like.
What's it called?
And in yellow, it's one of the GW contrast.
Oh, Eldar.
Mm-hmm. Yep, the craft world.
Yeah, well, oh yeah.
One of them anyway. So again, like with the purple car, I'm gonna try to sort of blend some of that around. Oh, it's still wet. I'm probably gonna have to do a couple of coats. I don't know, honestly, the yellow might not be as suited for what I'm trying to do here as some of the other colors. Oops, let's just throw that on the table. How would you guys feel if Santa gave you a Car Wars war cycle for Christmas?
Like a real one?
Yeah.
Probably shouldn't be trusted with one,
I probably should.
Yeah.
Yeah, me neither.
but also motorcycles aren't really my thing. I don't like my hair flying around everywhere.
Well, that's why I haven't had.
Well, like, I don't generally like, I don't like convertibles even. It's just,
Yeah,
yeah,
me neither.
yeah, you need it. But yeah, also I like to I like a cup holder so I can have a drink or whatever. And no,
Yeah,
not
motorcycles
really.
definitely aren't for
Motorcycles
everyone.
is more of an active experience than I care for when I'm driving,
Yeah,
or to seem like they would be.
it's not like a commuter vehicle. It's like
Like,
you need to be on and paying attention.
get Randy in here, he'll disagree all day. Oh, no, maybe not that it's more active, but about liking it or not. Because he used to, for years, he had,
Isn't that kind of the operative word though? Used to.
What?
And something you want. I think my sister-in-law might still ride a motorcycle. I don't know. She really, I remember, I can still remember when she wanted to get one when she was still in high school and the whole parent thing and like absolutely not and all that.
But she did, huh?
Yeah, eventually she did.
and some of these look like they might have cup holders and stuff in them. They're big enough.
Right.
Yeah, there might be something, some room in the back here to put a cup holder or something else.
Maybe the beer fridge. Can you put different? Can you put a beer fridge on a cycle?
I mean, I would guess they have all different loadout cards, but maybe I'm wrong.
We'll find out.
I don't have an answer for that one. we were using some stand-in cards, but I have not seen any much of the dedicated cards for it. Last time I was playtesting, we were still doing mostly mechanics and stuff, and seeing about how to best balance stuff and make them feel like cycles, not just small cars,
Yeah.
and different ways of doing that. I feel like the last place we got to on that was pretty good. But again, I haven't seen it in a couple months, so
Armored beer cozy.
there you go.
Ah.
Beer fridge sidecar.
Yeah.
That's probably too much beer to be driving around with.
It depends on where you're going.
I suppose, I mean, depends on the length of the road trip, I guess.
For an arena, probably, yeah, you don't need it.
I feel like if you're doing like long haul cycling, you almost want the sidecar to be like a vault for whatever you're transporting, and
Yeah.
or just a big gun with a wheel underneath it, right?
The more you drink, the lighter the sidecar gets.
Yeah.
That's true. Dump it as a defensive attack. Now that's cool. Use it
Like
offensively.
a slab.
Yeah,
Just drop it. Yeah.
like a slab, right? Or beer slick. That's it does seem slightly more feasible on a cycle than in one of the cars.
Right. Well, in a car, you just need to, like, how you can get the things that sit in your fridge that like will line up like all the sodas or cans of
yeah.
whatever,
Right.
right? So you just need like an extra long one of those that like drops out underneath the car, and you just like release 3, 4, 5 at a time, like chick, 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 let the cans scatter out, reload from the top.
And also the cans are filled with nitroglycerin.
Right.
What kind of beer are you drinking, dude?
No, not the beer. Your opponent says use the beer. It's like psychological warfare. Don't want to waste it. Yeah.
Almost off camera there, Ben. Good night.
Fortunately, I'm getting more paint in this little recess here than I meant to. This is going to be a white streak down there. Whew.
So the release date on this, you said we were aiming for summer.
Right now, yeah. Steve made a post last week, I think, that we're aiming for around Gen Con with cycles.
Okay. That would be cool.
And that's an estimate because we gotta finish everything. So things can always get delayed.
Yeah. Who knows what
Shipping will be
shipping
and
stuff will
yeah.
be like
Ship-
6 months from now.
Every year, shipping is always find out what you can do this time around.
Right.
So we got like some little gold windshield, a little red. We're doing a little mint green on the weapons. It looks like.
Well, I'm going for a light blue. Usually, I kind of go with the metallics for the weapons, and I like to start those with the light blue,
Got it.
just to have a little color. So I was about to hit those with a wash. Just gonna try to finish all those parts. I have my jerry rigged wet palette, which is a wet napkin on a plate because I forgot my real one. And I don't know, it seems like I'm having a hard time keeping the color consistent because this one isn't straight out the pot. It's like a blue that I have that I'm mixing a little bit of white in with. Maybe I could do oh my gosh, I keep missing. The rear view mirrors, those could be something interesting maybe. All right. Let's move away from the and and yellow for the windshields at least. I've been painting some marble minis, and the and and yellow is great for yellow spandex, but I'm not looking at so well for this window. Blend a little bit in to get that gold. I don't know if it's the lighting. I feel like these are the colors I usually use for gold. We got a dirty yellow. Is this what I'm doing wrong? I used dark rust as the sort of warm brown. Maybe I should have gone with this. This is a little different. Vallejo Gorgon brown. Maybe that's the right one to use. They seem pretty close, but what's weird is two colors that like look right next to each other when they're painted. If you mix them with another color, they might look a lot more different to each other. It's when some of the, especially with like browns and stuff, that's when you really start to see any reds or oranges that the color might have really come out. Maybe it is a lighting. I don't know. This is not the color I'm used to getting when I use these particular paints. I'm not getting this nice rich gold that I'm expecting. And if anybody's wondering who hasn't watched one of these before, I don't really use metallic paints. I like when it works, I like the way that non-metallic metals look a little bit better. They're not cooperating right. Part of what this bike is going to need whenever it's finished is some kind of freehand, whether it's like a candy cane or a little Christmas ornament, and that is not going to be easy. It's a tiny
Holly
card.
leaves or some white fur trim or
Yeah. Some mistletoe. Do I dare even try to put something like that on? It's almost too bad. I kind of wish we'd had this idea at the start. Because it's funny, like, it was a couple of years ago, I guess. I was like, hey, we should do like silly holiday themed stuff on these streams. And I actually painted a few Valentine's Day themed cars.
yeah, I remember the pink Car Wars cars we did. I think it was last year.
Yeah. Um, and now here we are, just like a couple weeks away from Christmas, and it didn't even occur to me to do silly holiday themed cycles.
Brown is a weird color. It can be. It's the browns and yellows are, especially the yellows, are always tricky.
Well, the thing with browns is there are so many different ways to do a brown. Like you can have a brown that's just like one pure pigment, basically, right? So it's tiny microscopic brown powder in in the binder and the solvent. But you can also get it by mixing different colors. So a brown out of a bottle might have yellow and red and a little bit of blue pigment in it in different quantities, and that's what makes it look brown. So then when you actually blend it, it looks much more saturated. Because brown, any brown is basically a mix of all three colors, but not an even amount. So you can have purplish browns where it's mostly blue and red, but then a little bit of yellow, or you can have greenish browns where it's mostly blue and yellow, and then you add a little bit of red. Um, so yeah, browns are weird. Now, what I mean by that is if you were ever to mix a brown, that's how you would mix it, right?
Right.
Because there are, like I said, there are pure pigment browns. But if you ever need a brown, you just mix all three of the primary colors, but not in equal amounts. Equal amounts will get basically a gray. So it's all what pigments the company that made that particular brown used to get that shade. That's also why there are so many browns. You have warm browns, cool browns, dark browns, light browns, yellowish browns, cool browns. There's this red one on really. That always takes a few coats to get it right.
You get that real, like cherry red look.
Yeah. Man, I don't know what is with me. I keep missing and like accidentally tagging some other part of the vehicle. I just got red on the gun barrel just now. Let's do a little bit of a wash on all these metal parts. I've painted that light blue on. Man, gotta get every bit of red off the brush. Red can really linger on your paintbrush. And then you get a little bit of red in the next thing you do. So this is the last of a P3 ink that I still have. I don't know if they're going to start making it again, but it's their old armor wash. And more than any product I've ever used, it just is really great at going right into the cracks and really just making nice outlines where you need them. So again, it's a great way to have something full of tiny details, especially when there's lots of hard edges, like on these guns. It's just great. Not so good for things like close, because it really wants to get into fine lines and give you like instant lining. And then I did it again. I got some on the green part. So I use this
That
almost,
immediately picks that gun out, though. Yeah.
yeah. So they don't, the company that made this, Privateer Press, sold their paint line along with most of their other IP to Steamforged Games. And they only just recently did a Kickstarter where they're supposedly redoing the P3 line. And I've gotten mostly used to AK acrylics here, some Vallejo there, various other stuff. I used to be a diehard P3 fan, and I'm glad that, I mean, nobody in town was stocking it anymore, and that's kind of why I switched to different brands. And I'm really glad I did that before the stuff all just disappeared forever. Um, but if the Kickstarter, I'm pretty sure funded, and if I'm able to start buying P3 stuff again, I'm definitely going to want some of this armor wash, assuming they stuck to the same formula. I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do when I run out of it. Supposedly, Games Workshop's glossy black ink is pretty similar. And that is the one problem with this stuff, is it does dry very glossy. A lot of times you can't even tell when it's dry. So if you like a matte appearance like I do, then a coat of matte varnish is 100% required for anything you use this on. But for me, that's not a big deal, because that's something I'm going to probably be doing anyway. And if you're wondering for matte sprays, I still recommend Tester's Dull Coat. I had some okay results with the Army Painter matte spray, but it's just not quite as reliable. So if I would use it again if I couldn't find any testers, but it's just much more finicky about the distance you have to spray it from which is something that is true of all matte varnishes, but like with the army painter stuff, you had to get just the right amount, at just the right distance, or it would go on cloudy, which I don't like, obviously. And of course, it's much harder in Texas, where this was in the summertime, so things. Excuse me. Matte varnishes of all brands just tend to dry in the air in Texas summers, so it's even more important here to get one that is pretty reliable. And that brings me back to Tester Stelco. That has always been the brand that works best for me. Oof. All right. How are we doing on time?
Probably about 15-ish minutes or so.
Okay.
We could run a little longer if you'd like to.
I'm good. I'm just a little worried my voice might be starting to give out after that cough.
Yeah, it can take some time to get back to talking like constantly for a bit.
Yeah.
You know, we just got back from PAX Unplugged. It's always rough by the third day of the convention, trying to make sure you keep enough water and cough drops all the time to keep your voice going all 3-4 days of the show.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's just that I've had this cold.
Yeah, those don't help either.
I took like all the medicines before I came, like the is it Zyrtec, some Mucinex, some cough syrup, and then I did 2 nasal sprays, the fluticasone and the what's the other one? I can't remember. Anyway, yeah, anything I could think of to try to clear some of the mucus out,
I'll tell you, for
so I wouldn't be coughing.
if your
It's
throat is rough and you're done, grab some throat coat tea.
Throat goat.
It is we use it for acting and stuff all the time. It is really good at restoring voice. Doesn't taste the best, especially if you don't like anise flavors. There's a little bit of anise flavor to it and everything, but it's very good on your throat like that, and maybe put some lemon in it.
I remember I had this cold a few years ago where it was just so bad. I was like, I was making this horrifying tea concoction with like the orange juice and all the teas I could think of, and then I would like literally take like that hot pepper that you put on pizza, and I would put it inside a tea ball, and I would steep it in there for like 10 minutes in the hot water, so it was also like flaming spicy hot. Just anything
crushed
I
red
could do
pepper.
to try to, yeah, just crush red pepper. Anything I could try to do to clear the gunk out of my throat.
Yikes. What about raw garlic?
Oh, I can't do that, man. That burns in a way I don't like. I love spicy food, but the way raw garlic burns in your mouth, that I don't love.
So get a really, really hot curry or vindaloo.
Oh yeah.
Still bummed about missing PAX Unplugged. Yeah, it was a pretty good show. It was big. They were sold out this year. They said they had they were sold out every day. It was pretty crowded. We were pretty busy. We got to do some cool stuff though. Thursday, some of us went to Ninth Level Games, had a little mixer that we went to on Thursday nights after we got everything set up. We went, took showers, and got to see industry people and see some of our remote people there that we don't get to see every day down here. And then we did a thing on Saturday. Yeah, we hosted an event on Saturday with Backer Kit and I can't remember the other company's name off the top of my head, but it was at a axe throwing bar.
Oh my
So we
god.
had like up front there was like, you know, some snacks and everything, and then it's kind of like you like went down a hall and it was kind of like a bowling alley, except the aisles were like pairs of axe throwing things, which is pretty cool. They had they had one set up with like Nerf in case you couldn't you didn't want to do axe stuff. You could do like Nerf targets, but big wooden things at the end of the wall. one axe per person, like 2 people in there, and then they projected the targets onto the backdrops with like projectors on the
Oh.
ceiling. So like
You can change the targets.
you could change the targets. Like some of them were playing like Battleship or tic-tac-toe style games where you had to like throw and hit the specific things. We were not that good.
No, it's not easy,
It
man.
sounds fun.
It was a good time.
Was it only axes? Do they have like throwing daggers too? Or?
They just had axes and Nerf.
Okay.
Like one bay was like Nerf guns, Nerf bow and arrows, things like that. And the rest of them were just axes.
Honestly, I feel like throwing daggers are way more dangerous than those big axes because they're way more likely to ricochet off something and
I
fly
feel like
back.
they're easier to do, but yeah, they bounce worse. The axes are like, all right, they're like, you can step here. Like they put you at a line. They're like, basically be around this line forward and back. Don't go forward to this line. They had like a wooden board, kind of raised it up in a mulch area, like because that's where they expect most of the bounces to be
Right.
in the end.
Yeah. Because like if you're far enough away, I don't think like no matter how hard you throw an axe, it's probably not going to bounce back to where it can hit you. But a little knife might.
Really, I think they solved it because like it might bounce off, and then the problem is if it bounces off the floor and keeps going.
Yeah.
And they kind of solved that with the floor was like a wooden mulch, so that
Okay.
it would like
With
absorb
an uneven surface.
uneven
Yeah.
and kind of like would
Not
absorb some of
very
the impact.
springy.
Exactly. But I did get a few shots that landed. I got a pretty good like really short clip. I found out my phone had like a slow-mo video option, so I took a slow-mo video of like Randy throwing one,
Yeah.
and I need to like cut the front end off it because a lot of like watching movement while he's like lining it up.
Right.
I took several, but I kept the one where he actually hit it, so it looks cool.
Nice.
We got to meet a lot of people there.
Oops, sorry, I forgot to turn the sounds off my phone. I don't know if anybody else can even hear that.
It's fine.
It'll be all right.
As long as we don't get hit with an Amber Alert.
Right.
Oh, God. I think those go off even if you have turned the sounds off on your
Yeah.
phone.
We showed off Munchkin Shadowrun, Pathfinder Revolution, Star Wars Orange Purple to a lot of people.
Shadowrun's out now, right?
Shadowrun's out. Came out in September.
Okay. Time just has no meaning anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, so people were picking that up. We almost sold out of almost sold out of Pathfinder Revolution. We got down to like
Nice.
the last case. We brought the Munchkin gift packs.
How many of the people buying Pathfinder Revolution were like Pathfinder people who were like, oh, I love everything Pathfinder. I gotta get this because it's Pathfinder.
Sometimes, a lot of times, the way that discussion goes, because when you set it out, it looks interesting because you got the board, the big colored cubes out there, and there's interesting art, and so people go, "Oh, is this?" Like they see Pathfinder
Waterdeep.
and they see it at the SJGames booth, they're confused,
What's happening?
and
Mhm.
and they go, "Is this like Lords of Waterdeep but Pathfinder?" We're like, "No, it's not." It kind of looks that way, and then we explain the game to them, and they go, "Oh, okay." We had a few people coming looking for Illuminati stuff.
Really?
Cool. Well, we have the new edition.
Yep.
Even did a few expansions for it in that style. What do I need to put on here? In the little bit of time we have left to make it Christmas here.
We should get
Could I
some
do,
of those
like-
Illuminatis? That would probably be interesting.
So on what's on the back there, Ben? Can it look like a present?
Oh, okay. I was gonna try a little holly wreath there.
That could be it too.
You can do a
Or
holly
can it
wreath
look
inside.
like the sack of presents or a holly wreath, something like that?
Mm,
Thematically, you got something for the
Yeah.
back of the sleigh, right?
Can also be a stocking.
Some presents.
Yeah, it looks a little. It look like a little boxy bits back there.
So got a couple leaves. Upside down again. Just need a couple berries. This sounds so silly. Would the berries, should the berries be under the leaves? Does it matter?
In usual depictions, they're either like in the center of a few leaves or they're,
Yeah.
yeah, usually you have like them at the center and the leaves coming out from it.
It just needs to be symbolic, not
Exactly.
accurate.
Right.
My hand's starting to fall asleep a little bit. Let's give it a shake.
It happened to me while I was playing video games. Which is crazy. It's like, man, this is a long mission.
Oh man, I spent like the last 3 or 4 days completely addicted to 1989's Populous.
Populous.
Yeah, I was just showing
Wow.
it randomly on the Steam sale, and I was like, maybe it's still fun. I had no idea I would end up spending like, God, I don't even know, maybe 15 hours playing it.
The Steam sales and the Amazon Prime free games.
I've been
Man.
trying not to look.
Well, I mean, free is free. They're doing a lot of GOG.com codes for
Yeah.
like Baldur's Gate 1 and Baldur's Gate 2. Just a lot of stuff. I'm like, all right, I'm for free.
For free.
I'll build my library up some.
Well,
Of
I'm
games that I need to play someday and probably won't ever get to them all.
I've done that for so many years now that I really need to pick and choose because my library is so big. I've got that first world problem of like, how do I find anything? There's so much stuff to look through. It's so many people have given away free games or, humble bundles, things like that.
Yeah.
Another thing we got that was cool at PAX Unplugged, because it just came out, was the folks from Direwolf Digital came over and brought us 2
Ooh.
boxes of their new print Pixels and Paper
Nice.
expansion, which is a physical box that has a card with a Steam code for the Munchkin Digital game, their Munchkin Digital game on Steam, plus 5 physical promo cards, and a like Orc Begone chainsaw keychain,
Cool.
like hanger or zipper hanger thing. I didn't. Well, they're still on the pallet art. I'd show one off, but yeah, it was neat to have like an actual physical thing with some physical rewards that you could like
Right.
buy and walk away, having the Steam game effectively without having to like load up Steam on your phone and find it and stuff. Out on the show floor.
Well, also,
Yeah.
I mean, it's PAX Unplugged. It wouldn't be very unplugged if they were just selling like a straight up video game.
Well, so Direwolf Digital does a lot of video game adaptations of board games. That's kind of their deal. But it was cool that they like had that there and brought some over for us to sell at our booth too.
A little low.
And like we would have talked to you about this sooner, but we literally just got them in. We were like, cool, yeah, it's great, show it off.
Stocking.
Well, I don't think I'm quite there. I don't think I'm quite good enough at this to do tiny letters or anything on it.
I think
Maybe
that sells the
a
idea.
tiny microscopic joy in there, but nope, can't do it.
Just the white squiggles, like it's cursive, right? It says something.
Oh, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah, that's what I do on my for all the what do they call those? The safety seals on the Warhammer dudes.
Yeah. It's funny to me because with all the mini painting I look at on Pinterest, there's such a like fine art to doing those and have them not say anything and
Right.
still just look like some people are so good at writing those little nonsense lines
Right.
and having it look super real and perfect and beautiful. Like there's like a crazy skill ceiling for that. Even though it's just like little wiggly lines.
Yeah, they're just squiggles.
Yep. But it's always funny to me. You'll see some people's Warhammer stuff on Pinterest and they'll have those little squiggles. Like, those are really good squiggles. Those are like the best squiggles I've ever seen.
Just representative enough. that
Right,
it's
exactly.
real.
I'll never-
Exactly. I
Yeah.
totally buy that that is writing that is too small for me to read.
Did you guys
The
see Secret
illusion is
Level?
perfect.
No, I've
No, I haven't
seen
watched
mentions
it
of it,
yet.
but not what it is.
Oh, it's a series of short animated films based on video game properties.
Okay.
So one of them they did was Warhammer 40K, and this reminded me of that because they rocket down, to the planet, and there's like it's got a chaos infestation, and as they're getting close to where the bad guys are, their purity seals start like burning up.
Oh wow.
It was so cool.
I mean I've read a few novels. I didn't know that was something that happened.
Well, I
Wonder-
mean, yeah, I've never seen it happen in any of the related stuff before, but it felt on brand.
Yeah, totally.
I'm not a huge Warhammer person, but I'm looking forward to what is it, Henry Cavill's
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Warhammer show.
Be interesting to see it.
Yeah, I saw a article the other day that they finalized their deal and it's actually going to happen. And they have a plan of like what the first stories will be.
It's going to be really interesting to see how they contextualize all the grimness and horribleness of that setting in a way that neither makes it seem like they're glorifying it or sugarcoating it.
Right. You should check out the Secret Level short then because it did a really good job.
All right, I think this is I think we could call this guy done for the stream. There's a little bit more I could put on. But just totally I'm ignoring the bottom. It's hard to notice, but I hate when it's just white.
I finished it up at some point. We'll have you bring it back on.
Yeah, maybe. Just depends on. I mean, I guess if I had a slow day, it would be something to do. But then it won't be Christmas anymore, dang it.
Oh man.
To a red seat.
Well, it's gonna be what Santa rides in his off time, right?
Right. Yeah. Well,
But it's
I mean,
not working.
Santa gets road rage just like all of us.
Santa and his slayers.
Yeah, there you go.
See the sidecar that's mostly brown with just some red on the front. The Rudolph.
All right, there we go. Give it a red seat cushion, call it a day. Probably use something right there. Maybe some candy canes, but those seem really hard to do. We'll try anyway. You guys ever play Populous? not to make this like a popular stream, but
I remember the name. I don't recall playing it.
Yeah, I don't know if I played that one.
Like one of those.
it's a
So-
god. So it's a god game,
It's
Right.
one of the God Sims, right?
and basically you just like flatten out all this land so that your little guys have room to build better houses and stuff. And then as you get more of them, and their buildings are better, they give you more power, and then you have to try to defeat the other god.
Right.
Did it have a sequel, or is it?
I think it may have, but the sequel, I don't know if anybody ever really played that one. There's
So
just
remember-
something so addictive about just like that step of just like flattening out all the land. You're like racing the computer to see who can flatten out the land before.
So remember,
Yeah,
Black
yeah.
and White was one of the earlier God games.
Well, I mean, Populous probably predates that by
Did it?
at least
Okay.
10 years.
Okay.
Because it's from '89.
Oh, okay, yeah. I was thinking, I may have been thinking of popular sequel.
If I remember '89, I was probably getting into Warhammer. Back then, doing lots of painting.
All right. I think those are successful candy canes. Let's see if I can rotate. Oh, that's the back. Wait, what? No, that's not the back. Why is it so difficult? Let's flip it over.
There you go.
Boom.
Boom.
There we go.
All right. Merry Christmas.
Throw it up on the
Yeah.
roundabout.
Which is, oh yeah, we can actually maybe have it do a roundabout now. We had to put this white piece of card on it because when these were just purely primed white, they were so bright that you couldn't, like, they just looked like white blobs, but it's still a little bit overexposed, I would say.
So we get the motion started on air.
All right.
Yeah.
Not bad for 90 minutes. Got the holly on that side, stocking on the other.
Yeah, I've spent a long time on the quote unquote real paint jobs. Because I've just been making a lot of mistakes with these super, super tiny things, and you have to be so careful because the detail's so fine. If you have to redo something more than a few times, you can't really see it anymore.
Well, Ben, thank you for coming in. Glad you're feeling a little bit better. Hope you continue to improve.
Thank you.
And I just want to remind everybody that, again, you've got until Monday the 16th to get in on the Christmas sales or holiday sales on Warehouse 23, and also to get in any holiday orders you want to get in before our warehouse closes for the rest of the year. So you want to get those orders in by Monday. We will be back next week, probably with our final deep dive for the year on Car Wars.
Probably the final stream of the year too,
It will definitely be the final stream of the year because we're not going to come in on Christmas.
right?
You can come in on 26 and do something if you want, Brandon.
I'm not doing that. Sorry.
And we probably, I'll have to see when we're back in the office. I don't know if we're going to be back on the 2nd or not. So we'll have to check in on that before next week. But yeah, thank you all for hanging out with us. We appreciate you being here and chatting with us about stuff. And like I said, we'll be back next week, get those things in. And thank you all for joining us on SJGames Live. We'll go ahead
Yep,
and
thank you very much.
pop back up to Ben. And any final questions before we go?
Visor off.
Mine's off.
How's my
There's
hair looking
Discord
up there?
link, Warehouse 23 sales.
Looking
Brandon.
forward to cycles.
Me too.
Heck yeah.
Like I said, what you saw, and as a reminder, what you saw here was all prototypes. Those models are earlier than the final models, or they are an earlier version of the models
Yep.
than Ben was painting, and those may still not be the final models.
Yep.
And anything we talked
What
about
Jimmy said.
gameplay, you what?
What Jimmy said.
And anything we talked about gameplay was also very much prototype stage, could change before release.
Most likely will change.
Most likely will change. Just all depends on everything else. But wanted to give you guys a sneak peek of it, do a little bit of fun painting, Hope you guys enjoyed it. We will see you guys next week on SJ Games Live. Take care, everybody.
So long. Thanks for watching.